Okay, here we will have a little video on how do I get started with Inkscape, Inkscape and Inkstitch. So first what you want to do is you want to go and set up your page. And then you go in File, Document, Properties. There's different ways that you can do it, but I like that the page is not showing. You can set that here. Show page border. If I click on there, close this out, then you will see here is your page. And the best way to go is, if you're working that way, to go and set your page to your hoop size. And you can do that here. And you choose here if you want to work with the metric system or the imperial. If you're working with inches, then you can set here the width. Say I'm working with a 4 by 4. Then you set it over there. And then just close out. Now you have your page is set up to your hoop size. And then you can go and zoom in to your hoop and away you go. But the ruler shows the 0 line is on the edge here, and the 0 line on that ruler is the top of the page. I like to work always with the 0 line in the center. So the way I do it is I go Document Properties, and I do not show the page, and then I just close out of here. Unless you want to change the imperial and metric, then what you can do is, now I have the 0 line here, 0 line there. If I then have a 4 by 4 hoop, then what I will do is I will go with my mouse on top of the ruler and pull a line out. That is my guide. I set that one on the -2, and I do a second ruler and set that on the +2. Then I go here to the top ruler and I click and drag another guide, set it there on 2. Then I move my screen a little and I draw my last one and set that on that 2. If you want to have it really accurate, now that I have the guides over here, you can, as the guide is selected, it will turn red. Then you double click on it and it will give you the information exactly where the X is. So if you want to set that one at 0, doesn't have to be on 0, but, and then this would be the position. So that would be, here you can see it has a -1.9. So, but we want to have it at a -2 if we want to have it for a 4 by 4 hoop. And then we can just say OK. So now to make you aware too, if you want to have more guides and if you need them rotated, then what you can do is have your guide, push down the shift key or hold down the shift key and then with the left mouse click, and you can rotate your guide in any angle. And it will rotate around this point. Every guide has got a little red dot, and that red dot, that is the position for the X and the Y position. And then if you double click on it, you get this window again. And then you can also set your angle. If you have specific angles, you can set your angle over here. Okay. Then, and if you want to move them out of the way, excuse me, then you can just drag them off the screen, or you can select and then you can go edit. You can go then also lock your guides in place. So now you will see they became locked, and then you have here the axes are showing. Now if you try to select them and move them, they will not move. They will stay in position on where they are. So now we have this square here, and that should be then the size of your hoop. Then the next step is we will go and load a image. So I'll go and just drag over an image, just click OK, and now I have an image. Now I will go and try to position that inside my hoop, and here on the corner, that is where you can go and adjust the size of your image. You will have to watch out that here in the top right, that this lock is in the lock position. Most likely when you're starting, it will be in the unlock position, and if it is in the unlock position, you can resize it and it will not be proportionate. So in order to, so I'll just have to do undo for a moment. If you go and lock it, now it will be in proportionate that it will be resized. And then you can go and move over your image, position it within your hoop. Then once you have that in place, then the best thing to do is go and lock your image in place, so that when you are going to be selecting objects or this or that you're not selecting your image and move your image out of the way. So then the best thing, lock it here in your objects panel. If your object panel is not visible here on the right side, then you can go here, objects, and then the top line, objects. So then once in place, then we will go and lock the image. And as you can see, now I have my select button and I cannot go and select that image and move it out of the way. Unlock. Now I can select and I can move it again. So edit, undo, move. So lock it in position, and then we are ready to go. Then what you want to do is look at your image and look at what is in the background, what is up front, and some people, they will start working just from the front and work their way to the back. There's people and they will go and start from the back and work their way to the front. So that is a personal preference, and you will eventually find your best way of working. So now that we have the image here, I like to zoom in almost close to 500%, and you're zooming in and zooming out. You can do that with the roller on your mouse, and so move the screen up and down is strictly the roller on your mouse. Sideways movement is using the roller with the shift key holding down, and zooming in and zooming out is using the control key and the roller on your mouse. And if you push down on the roller, you can just drag it with your mouse. So now I'll go and start here for a moment on the green leaves. And then what I will do is zoom in. I'm not zooming in as far as I like to, but so that we have here the whole leaf visible. And I will go and use the Bezier tool. Then with the Bezier tool, there are different ways of drawing with it. I always draw with the Bezier tool, this first option selected. And then what I always do is I click my points and I try to select my points where there is a change in the curve or angles, and I try to use as little points as possible, and then I go all the way around, and then now you can see that node that became red. That means then I can double click and it becomes a closed object. Then what I do is go to my node, select tool, select the item, and now I can go and drag all my lines in the position where I want. And if you want to adjust, you can go and drag your handles. And since this one is on the background, what I always like to do is give it a little bit of an overlap so that when it is showing out, you have less chance of getting gaps. And there you have your first object. So then we will have to set the fill on the object. The fill here on the bottom, there you have your color palette. You can select a different color palette, and you can go here in the corner on the arrow, click on there, and then you have a whole list of embroidery threads. So if you want to use their specific color palette, then you can go check mark one of them and your color palette will show up on the bottom. So we have now here we have a green object. Now we want to go and put a fill in it. Then what we do is just have it selected and then just click whichever color we want, and we want the line set to none, and we can do that by holding down the shift key and then click here on the X. Or the next option there is, if you go here to objects, fill and stroke, then with your object selected, you can go here to the fill and there is then the blue bar underneath. That one is then selected. If you set a fill here, you can set to X, then there's no fill. The second one, that is a flat color, and you can use your different options of color, how you want to do it. Or if you have really specific color settings, you can go and fill in your colors over there. And that is the same with your stroke. The stroke is now set to none. If you want to have a solid stroke, you can go on the solid and you can go and pick your color you want. And the stroke style is also in here. It is set to a solid line, and that's where you want to work with most of the time, but there are, for a running stitch, you want to change that to a dashed line. Okay, that covers that. So we just have to make sure here for a moment that we set the stroke to none, because we like to have the fill as one object, and if we want to have an outline around it, we want to have that as a separate object. So then, if we want to have an outline around this leaf, then what we can do is we go and right click on the object, we duplicate. Now we have a duplicate, and then in the duplicate we will go and set the fill to none, and we will set the outline. We'll pick a darker color here for a moment so it becomes better visible. Now we have a darker line around it, and we can make the decision on what kind of line do we want around it, if we want to have a satin stitch around it or if we want to have a running stitch around it. I'm not going there right now. We will talk about that hopefully later. So there we have the first leaf. Now we go to the second leaf. We'll go back to the Bezier tool again. So click on the, try to be as consistent as possible along your outlines. I am not going to be that particular, otherwise things may take a fair bit of extra time. And there we go. Now we have a closed one again. Go to the point select tool, click on the object, and we can go and drag them out. Line up the curves. Oh, I should show you in on the next one. It depends on how comfortable you are with the drawing, but I find this works pretty good. So we set our fill color again, and we set the stroke to none, and we go and right click, duplicate, and we will go and set the fill to none, and we set the stroke and there you have it. So now we'll go, and there you can see that is only with a stroke, and that one is just the fill. So now you have them back in place, and if you go objects, then you can go and check here which object is which, because that will come later on in play. Yet is we have to put everything in the right order. but I like to go always and first draw out everything, and then I will go and start working with everything in the right order. But everybody has a preference in how they want to work with items. Okay, then we can start drawing with the flowers. Then I'll zoom in a little more. Then we go back to the bezier tool again and start here. That one starts in the background. So in order with the bezier tool, you can also draw with click and drag. Click and drag. Now you can see there are two arms on the line right away, and by click and drag you can create right away the curve, and then you can go next point, click and drag, and then next point, click and drag. And that is sometimes that becomes, I find it kind of annoying, because then you get these curves and it doesn't want to quite line up nicely. So I quite often I go and just use it the other way, because now you can see if I'm changing this one, the curve, that one also changed. So this node has to be changed. And in order to do so, you click on it. Now you will see both arms on there. And we go here to the top bar and we make the selected node a corner. Now we can, each individual arm on the node, we can change the angle and the curve. By lengthening, you change it, or shortening, you change the curve. And that is the same with this node. This node needs to be changed also to a corner one. And there we go. That way we can line up the line exactly on the curves. And there you go. There is the first little leaf. So we set the fill, set the stroke, and then we move over to the next one. So I find it easier. Click, 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 click. Give it a little bit of an overlap on where it is going to go in behind. Through experience, you will start finding out what is the best, how much overlap I'm going to give it. Then we go select them again. Quickly move over the lines, give them a little bit of a curve. Or if we want to move a node, then we can just select a node. If we want to have more nodes in between, then what you do is select the section and click on the plus, and then you create an extra node. And there, plus, and then it puts one in the center. If you then click it once more, then you will get two more nodes, a node in between each section again. So there you could see there was one created here and one created there. And if you want to if they are all selected, so and if you want to get rid of one or two nodes, you can select them with drawing a square around them. Now these two nodes are selected, and with a minus, then you will get rid of those nodes. That way you can get rid of nodes. Okay. Also, you will be having to break some of the path, and you can do that over, you can select any node and you can do that here. This is the joining two nodes together, and this is breaking apart a node. So that's what I did there, and now you can see they are broken apart. And say I want to have these two now connected, then what I do is select them, and then I can go join them with this one, or they can be joined with a segment in between. So there you go, and that is connected. Okay, now we move on. We set a fill, stroke to none, and there we're ready to go. So now this one in the center, I'll zoom out just a little so we can work on the next one and have a full screen. So, and with Inkstitch, wherever you start drawing, that is basically where it is gonna start filling, but that can be changed later. So we go back to the Bezier tool again. Draw around this item, close it, point select, and also if you start becoming more familiar with the program, you may want to go and use more the shortcuts. I'm not using the shortcuts right now because for the people starting to learn, most of the time they familiarize themselves first with all the tools and buttons, and then as you're selecting that tool or button, you can familiarize yourself uh, with the shortcuts, because everything, if you go here, there you can see the shortcuts are all in behind there. Here, Control Shift F, there Shift Control O, Shift Control Y. So you can go and start learning those, or you can also go and set up your own. Okay, so there's another object. Now we go and the next. There you go. Get your curves, get your overlaps a little, set your fill, set your stroke, and that way you just keep moving through the whole object. Okay, I will go and stop the video for a moment and then come back when no, maybe I'll do one more here, and then I will go and finish up all the objects, and then probably come back, and then we'll move on to other video in other, because at the moment I cannot load really big videos on my YouTube channel since I just started, and that's giving me issues. So changing the curves, and then we set the fill. and then set it. So that's the way we keep on going. Say if there is at a certain point and your visibility of the lines is not the greatest, that you say, hey, I drew there already, but I cannot see what is happening underneath there, then what you can do is in your object panel, or go here, you select there, I'm selecting a object, and then it shows in the object panel which one that is, and I can just like that, and I can go and turn off the visibility, and then I can see all my underlying lines good again. Yeah, and then we can just like that, and we can turn them back on. Okay, I will go and stop this video for now, and hope this helps you first to